Welcome to Journey Through Sci-Fi. My name is James.
My name is Matt.
And today we have a special bonus episode for you guys. We recently got the chance to chat to director and writer of the new film Occupation Rainfall, Luke Sparke, and we had a lovely chat with him, didn't we, Matt?
Yeah, it was interesting to catch up with Luke Sparke and learn about the process of the new film and how he brought Occupation Rainfall to the screen. It's the sequel to the 2018 alien invasion movie Occupation, and it kind of expands the storyline and opens it up.
Yeah, so without further ado, let's get straight into our chat with director and writer Luke Sparke.
So Luke Sparke, welcome to Journey Through Sci-Fi. Thanks very much for joining us. Congratulations on the film, and congratulations on the UK release.
Thank you. Good to be here, guys. Appreciate it.
So Occupation Rainfall really opens up and expands the classic alien invasion genre. There were times where I felt like I was watching a space opera, but like a local space opera because it's set on Earth. How did you approach kicking things up a gear for the sequel?
Yeah, well, that was, I guess, my intention. You kind of hit the nail on the head. I'm a big fan of space operas. And yes, I'm localized to Earth, so I had to think outside the box of how I could expand it and make it feel like it's bigger than just Earth. And that's where I came up with the idea, I guess, of a journey for characters, like a buddy cop sort of, in a way, journey across the landscape. And as I went along and made the film and was in post-production, like we all kept coming up with ideas of how we could show the world and expand as much as we can. And also the different localities of, having snow and the desert. And that was very important to me, to make it feel like a longer journey than just stuck in one location for the whole time.
Yeah, talking about sort of the locations and stuff, like the film has lots of really impressive like special effects and costumes, which all sort of like meld together to create this really like diverse world, but also a diverse cast of alien creatures. So one of the things we wanted to ask was, how did you go about bringing so many different types of alien characters to life on screen? Because there's loads in there.
Yeah. I mean, look, I love to give some big, long answer that's like an amazing revelation that I had, but it's really just like, I mean, this whole series, I mean, this film especially, I'm flying by the seat of my pants all the time. I'm coming up with ideas. I'm waking up in the middle of the night, sketching things down, thinking, oh, that would be cool. I'm lucky that I'm the creator and the director and the editor and like all these different things rolled into one where I can really have a play, and my producers back me all the way, which is really good. But yeah, you're right. Like I tried, even towards the end there, I've got like I came up with a 4-armed alien, like walking in the background. He doesn't do anything. He's just there for a couple of moments. I see him all the time because I'm like, there's my guy. That's the guy I created. I guess it's just a sense of wonder and a sense of, and I've got great artists that came on board, like just freelancers on the internet that just literally wrote to me saying, look, I make these crazy ideas on ArtStation. Like, are you looking for people? And I'm a collaborative person. And I just was like, yeah, let's bring you in. And next thing you know, again, 20 designs and one might be great. And then we expand on that design. And it's just a real collaborative process. And to meld all that in with the costumes and the armor and that, like, again, it's just conversations, coming up with ideas and really sort of telling people kind of where my mind's at, whether it's I love the Mass Effect franchise, the video games, I love Star Wars obviously, so there's just those influences that, while I don't want to rip them off, obviously they play heavy on my mind and how I can infuse certain things.
How much control do you give over as a director to all those collaborators that you work with when you're doing this sort of film?
I'm sure they'll probably say zero, but I feel like I give control over. Like, I feel like I'm giving people some rope. You have to surround yourself with the right team. If you got the right team, then obviously you can feel a bit more safe in letting people have a play. And I had to find that out the hard way. We shot this film over like a year or two because we had to break it up because it was so big, and we're doing it independently. So we had to like come back a year later and like continue on filming, and that was a continuity nightmare to make sure that everything was the same. There's one scene in there where one shot of an actor is 2018 and then the reverse shot is 2019 in the same scene, and it's a year later, and everything had to be right. And I know what is there, obviously, but and no one's picked it up so far, so that's good. So you have to have a team around you, and throughout that time, you know, I had to jettison some crew and bring in some more crew, and you know, really sort of, it's been a huge journey. This film, it's kind of crazy stories that will come out hopefully eventually of this film. It's just it's been a ride.
Yeah, rest assured, there were no moments in the film where I thought that a character had aged a year between edits, so that doesn't come across. That's all perfectly smooth, don't worry. So it's absolutely chock-a-block with action-packed set pieces. We wanted to know what was the most challenging scene in the film to film, apart from any that were filmed a year apart, I guess.
Look, they've all got their own stories and their own, you know, different obstacles to overcome when you're filming that sort of stuff. Like the sword fight stuff was done all practically, and that was fun to shoot because you could walk away and see it in camera. Some of the other stuff, like escaping from Sydney, was just, you know, I didn't know how we were going to get it done on an independent sort of film. So that was like coming up with ideas. I think that was probably the most elaborate in a way of how many sequences and different plates we had to shoot to get it to where it had to be. The freaking fight with the spider monster took me forever. I don't want to talk about that scene ever again. That was one of the ones that we shot like over the course of 2 years, and it was like the first thing we edited, and it was the last thing that we had to finish off to deliver the film. It was just a nightmare. So yeah, there's different stories throughout that. I think the most challenging one though was probably the opening battles, because there's so many of them, like in quick succession, and we're like all over the place. And yeah, it was interesting times.
Talking of sort of challenges and stuff making the film, so this is like, it's an Australian indie sci-fi. Was it tricky, or did you come across any sort of challenges sort of breaking out internationally? And especially considering like the industry and the genre is so dominated by the American market, sort of how was it being an Australian indie film and sort of breaking through?
To be honest, it's harder in my own country. Once it goes to America, like it opened at number 10 that last weekend in the top 10 over in VOD in America, and like the feedback and the last week has been a whirlwind for me, because it's just been like so well received over there, and everyone's watching it, and it's like I said, it's in the top 10 of VOD releases, and it's just been great. Coming out in your own market is the hard one. Everyone's like, why would you do an Australian sci-fi film? We don't do sci-fi films. And it's like, okay, well, here it is. I mean, the rest of the world doesn't really look at it. Like, no one's actually asked me, it's an indie film. I'm only saying it now, but no one actually ever says it to me. They just think of it as a film, which is what I want people to think about. So yeah, it's been an interesting conundrum with your home turf compared to the rest of the world. So, you know, is what it is, I guess.
Yeah, because it does look very slick, like all of the effects, everything. It can sort of like, it punches way above its weight with sort of like the way it looks and everything.
Yeah. It's just yeah. I mean, I was trying to aim for like a mini studio film, because the budget that we have, like you look at it of what an American studio would spend, it would be like a low budget romantic comedy. The amount of money that we spent on this movie, like, and to pull off what we pulled off is like kudos to the team behind me. To pull it all off. Someone put that in analogy to me, and it makes sense that, you know, the budget that we spent would be like a low budget studio romantic comedy with B-grade actors or something in it. So it's an interesting analogy.
You say someone put that to you. So did you know that going in? Was that on your mind, or are you just approaching this like, I've got my budget, got to make my film, got to go for it?
Yeah, that's pretty much how I was approaching it. Like, I'm a pretty hard taskmaster when it comes to on-set and behind the scenes of trying to strive for the biggest and best. You know, people come in, they go, well, Luke, you've only got this much money. And I'm like, yeah, but don't worry about that. Like, let's worry about like how we can make it the best possible. What tricks can we use? What can we overcome to make it look bigger? You know, that's how I always approach it.
So you've got 2 occupation films in the bag in just under 3 years, with a pandemic in the middle of that. What's next for the Occupation series?
Well, I'm working on a TV pilot right now for a whole different thing, trying to get something else out there rather than just Occupation. But I mean, it ends on a cliffhanger. Spoilers if people haven't watched it yet, but it does end on a cliffhanger. And I wrote it as one big massive film, and I cut it in half. So I think just this past week, once it hit top 10 in America, I think the producers announced that the second one has been written and it's in active development and it's casting right now. So, I guess I'll do this pilot and then maybe do Occupation 3. I'll love to finish the story. Like it's a great script. Like this one is just, it was written to be kind of just this fast paced ride. It gets you sort of into this world, this bigger world. And then the next film kind of really at the beginning like slows it back down a little bit. You with the resistance, all the stuff in this movie's happened, but it ends on this massive, as big as I can possibly do, ending that's crazy, and I would love to do it.
Are you able to talk about the TV pilot that you're working on at all?
Yeah, I mean, it's based on a book series that I had the IP for the last 7 years. I've been working on and developing it in between doing all this other stuff, and I think it's the right time to do it. So after this movie came out in Australia, we pushed ahead with this pilot, and we're going to try to get it to series, and again, doing it myself. That's probably all I can say about it right now. Filming in August, and there'll be probably a press release around late July about what it is and what's happening and who's in it. So it's exciting. It's a sort of a real sort of I guess a piece of mind that I really wanted to do. So it's kind of special to me that I'd love to get the series made into a show. It's the right time to do it, and it's got lots of themes about. It's a time travel film. It's a time travel series, and it's got lots of themes about sexual racism. All these different things of today that is more relevant than ever. So when I read the book back in the early 2000s, I was like, oh, this would be a cool book. It's got history and I love history. And now with all this other stuff happened, I'm like, this is the right time to do it. We're doing it, and I'm hoping that it's going to go well. And yeah.
Really exciting. Great stuff.
Very exciting. Well, please follow me so you can catch up with me once I announce it, and that it's really good.
Definitely. I'm sure all the listeners will as well. So you've already mentioned so on our podcast, we explore different sci-fi subgenres each series. So we've done like a series on AI, space films, time travel, virtual reality is our latest series. So you've already mentioned sort of like you're doing potentially a time travel thing that's coming up. You've worked on an alien invasion films. What other sort of sci-fi subgenres would you be keen to work with in the future? Or are there any more sci-fi subgenres you want to explore?
I don't know. It's hard. Like, I don't want to put myself into a corner. What would you say occupation subgenre is in terms of alien invasion? Is that what you're saying? Is that what you said?
Yeah, I think it's got a mix. Like Matt said at the start, I feel like it's got a mix of the alien invasion kind of subgenre and the space opera stuff, just with sort of like its world building and everything. So I think it's got a really nice mix of those two.
Yeah.
But yeah, is any of those sort of like AI, like artificial intelligence, or anything else that springs to mind, like a dystopia?
Dystopia. I guess it's got a little bit of dystopia in this one as well. Some people, like I think a cinema out here called it sort of Mad Max meets Starship Troopers, is what some cinema called it as. And I was like, okay, fair enough. Yeah. I mean, dystopian, I don't know, Mad Max does it well. I'm not really that interested in it. Like I dipped a little bit into this one, but as far as I want to go, I don't know. I kind of like the space opera. Like I know it's like a huge long shot out there, but like I would love to do a Star Wars movie. I'd love to do Mass Effect. I'd love to do Robotech. I'd love to do like any of those sort of, that feels like it's in my wheelhouse. And I guess a part of me kind of infuses some of my films in with it, just because in case I never get to do it in those movies, I'll do it in mine. So I guess anything of those I'd like to do. So, maybe some sort of exploration sci-fi movie on a planet, kind of like Star Trek, I guess, like different worlds and discovering different worlds is probably the closest I'd probably do. Apart from that, time travel is one I'd kind of move away into something else.
Yeah, I'd love to see a Robotech movie, definitely.
As soon as I saw Transformers 1, I was like, once I saw Starscream, I'm like, okay, well, let's do Robotech right now. Let's do it. And I can't believe it hasn't happened yet.
I will look for your name in the credits of the inevitable Robotech movie then. Occupation Rainfall, it wears its sci-fi inspiration on its sleeve, and we're a sci-fi podcast. So we wanted to ask you what the sci-fi films are that inspired you the most. You mentioned Star Wars and space opera, and I realised that I'm talking to you now and I can see in the background a whole host of Star Wars memorabilia, and I think there's a Hulkbuster back there. Lots of recognizable stuff. What's in your kind of personal canon of sci-fi?
Well, yeah, it's going to be obvious answers. It's going to be Star Wars. It's going to be Independence Day. It's going to be Starship Troopers, and I guess Aliens, the second one. It's going to be obvious one like that. I don't really have any sort of apart from Robotech and Mass Effect, I've talked about all of them, so I don't really have any niche little subgenres that come to mind. It's always the big stuff.
So you're an Aliens over Alien man. I can back that opinion, but it's a controversial one with some people.
Very controversial one. Alien is a great movie. I just happen to like Aliens better.
I think we're the same here.
It's almost a Starship Troopers movie anyway.
And that James Cameron kind of blockbuster feel is clearly an inspiration, I think, on Rainfall, isn't it?
Yeah. Cameron, A.J. Abrams, inspiration. It's hard. Like, I get to the point where I don't want to keep comparing myself because I love to try to say it's a Luke Sparke movie. It's but hopefully one day someone will say that to me. That would be great. But it definitely wears its influences on its sleeve. As much as, to be honest, I don't see it because maybe it's just in my head so much. When I'm set every day, I don't really go, let's do a scene from this movie. Like, I think it's just because it's infused in my blood so much. Because I've just grown up with all this. I feel like my feeling of how to do a scene or how to do a sequence just kind of comes off from watching those films so much.
And that's the thing about world building as well. You get inside that world, and then that's how you build a world. You have to live in it, and you have to see it from the inside, don't you?
Exactly. Like, yeah. And I think just from watching those films so much, because I'm editing these films as well, like I think it just comes naturally to me because I feel like the cuts, the music kind of reflect that sort of Cameron Lucas style where a scene will flow into the next one through a music cue or through a cut, and people go, it's just Star Wars. And I'm like, well, I'm not trying to. I think it's just my natural instinct.
But of course, they picked that up. Those filmmakers, George Lucas picked that up from people making films 20, 30 years before him as well. So, yeah.
Kira Kurosawa and King Kong and Flash Gordon. So, yeah. All start somewhere.
That's how it works.
One final question for you then, Luke, just before we go. What was it like working with the cast? And is there anybody you'd like to work with in the future? Sort of like any actors you sort of like, who would be your dream collaboration?
Heaps of people I love to work with. Heaps of people. I mean, like, the fan of me always wants to work with people who I'm a fan of. Not necessarily the interesting picks of like, oh, I want to work with Brad Pitt. Like, obviously, yes, anyone would want to work with those top actors. But like, the sci-fi fan in me and the movie fan in me would be like, I love to work with Michael Biehn from Hicks from Aliens. I love to work with someone from Starship Troopers. I love to work with Mark Hamill. You know what I mean? Like I would love to fill my car, and I kind of do in a way where I fill my car with Tamina Morrison. You know what I mean? Like, I kind of feel like I'll keep doing that throughout all my course of my career, to be like, I want to work with the people who I've grown to respect as from a young age. So yeah, for me, I'd like to keep working with those sort of people.
Luke, thank you so much for talking to us. It has been an absolute pleasure.
That's all right. Thank you guys. I really appreciate it.
No problem at all. And congratulations once again on the film.
Thank you. I hope everyone enjoys it.
So Occupation Rainfall is available on VOD from the 9th of July in the UK. People can check that out. Thanks again, Luke.
Thank you.
Well, that was our interview with director of Occupation Rainfall, Luke Sparke. We hope you enjoyed that.
And remember, if you want to get in touch with us, we are all over the internet. You can find us on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. We have a website. If you look up @Through Sci-Fi or @Through Sci-Fi Pod, you'll be able to find us. So yeah, come and have a chat. We'd love to speak to you.
We'll be back soon with Series 5 of the podcast. But in the meantime, if you want more extra content from us, come on over to patreon.com/journeythroughsci-fi.
That's it from us this time. We'll see you again soon.